My name is Nick Sharon-Ambus, and I'm the Managing Director of a company called Alpha Wealth. We're an independent financial services company based in Little Island in Cork. We do have a small presence in Dublin, but as I was saying earlier, we have 6 people who are financial advisors providing advice to individuals like yourselves in respect of really 3 main areas. They tend to focus on areas such as savings, investments, and tax reduction schemes, the area of retirement planning and pensions, and then lastly, in respect of insurances. And we don't provide all types of insurance, but we do provide advice to individuals. So whether it be in things like car insurance, house insurance, to things like home, and for those of you, I suppose not relevant for this year, but maybe next year is travel insurance. We give people advice, whether it's through an existing policy they have, or if they're looking to get the best rates, or indeed check the market out. It's just a free service that we provide for people. We don't charge for our advice. The way that we're remunerated is through the companies that we place business with. So typically the likes of an Irish Life or a New Ireland or a Zurich. We set up the business 6 years ago, really primarily as a low-cost company. That's the way that we were able to engage, particularly during the recession. And we followed that mantra through. I'm 46 years of age myself, and I've been in the industry for almost 20 years. And it's always a philosophy that we've had, that we just want to make sure that people get the appropriate advice where they can. So I suppose just to kick off, as I said earlier, this is going to be a 15-minute webinar. There are going to be further webinars that we will run, notably one on the 23rd of September, 2 weeks today, at the same time, where we've invited Zurich to just talk about the current state of the investment markets, and also look at maybe opportunities in terms of savings, and indeed where they see opportunity for individuals, and risks, of course. And again, you're more than welcome to partake in that particular webinar. Today's focus is going to be on tax reduction schemes, of which I'm going to run through. I'm delighted to say that I'm going to be joined shortly by a guy called Simon Kelly, who is the joint owner of a software company called Emex. And he's going to talk for about 5 minutes around a specific opportunity that is relevant to individuals in Ireland about how they can reduce the tax that they suffer, which I'll lead on to there in the next while. So as I said, if you can't see the screen, please click onto it. You'll see a little bit more about Alpha Wealth and what I've mentioned earlier. I throw up a photograph of myself and a colleague of mine, David Looney, who's a fellow financial advisor. This was last year, an event that we were at in Cork, in Photo Island Resort, with Dermot Bannon, obviously kind of pre-COVID, which was a good bit of fun as well. So in terms of the tax schemes, there are 3 areas that I'd like to talk about briefly today. The first of which is, for those of you that have been working from home and may have continued to do so, you may be aware, but there is an opportunity for you to claim an allowance. Some companies have actually been doing this directly for their employees. Essentially, what it allows is €3.20 per day to claim for expenses that you may have borne by virtue of working from home, typically to allow for things like heating, use of phones, electricity, and so on. It's not mandatory for an employer to do that. And interestingly, I've come across a lot of companies that are not automatically doing this for their staff. It's something that I would suggest to employees that they should ask their employer about if the employer is not doing this. And some employers are waiting until the end of the year to claim for all of the relief for 2020, but it's something that an employee can do themselves. However, there is also another option for employees, or indeed those that are not in a position where their companies will do this, where they can claim 10% of their bills, whether they be electricity, heating, gas, of which they can make a claim. And again, it's something that we can help people do so.
The bills.
So
10% ha detto.
Sorry, no.
3,20 euro per working day.
It's just a bit of background noise there. So just to move on, in relation to pensions, one of the things that we do advise clients to consider is looking at whether they wish to get some independent advice around their pension arrangements. This is for those of you that may have pension schemes through your employment or may have had pensions from previous employments and are looking just to get an independent second opinion. We assist people insofar as guiding them as to see are they on track as to what they would like to think that they could achieve, helping them reach this, I suppose, idea of financial independence, whatever that might look like for them, and as to when that might occur, whether it be at 60 or helping them retire early, or indeed, are they able to meet whatever requirements that they may have, and indeed, allowing them the option of paying into things like additional voluntary contributions and how that might work, and more importantly, get an assessment of where their funds are invested and are they appropriate. So again, it's a service that we do provide. Pensions are a very useful vehicle for tax reduction, and it is something that we do say to individuals that they should consider and look at, particularly for those of you that perhaps have been working from home, may have a little bit more money because you may not have been able to spend the money that you have, and maybe looking at ways in which you can reduce the tax, and that certainly is a very viable vehicle to use. Now I'm going to move on to the focus of today. It's a revenue scheme. It's something that you may not have heard of, and it's called the EIIS scheme, or more commonly, the Employment Investment Incentive Scheme. Now, the qualification for this scheme is that you must be eligible under two things. The first of which is that you must be a high rate taxpayer. Now, this may apply to a spouse of yours, or you know, your partner, or indeed someone that you might know. But essentially, for someone to qualify for the scheme, and it is an individual scheme, it's per person, that they must be earning typically over the thresholds of 37,000 a year if you're singly assessed, or 47,000 a year if you're jointly assessed, taking your spouse's credits, and also that you must have some cash in the bank. The minimum requirement is 5,000 euros. Now, there may be some of you that may have the income at the higher rate, but not the cash. And there may be some of you that may have the cash and not the income, but you need to qualify under both of these. If you do not have the cash, this scheme will be available for the next number of years, and it's something that we help individuals work towards insofar as helping them reduce maybe some costs that they have and help them save to gather this 5,000 together. And the real benefit to this is that, as Simon will go through in a little bit of detail there in a moment, the Irish government will give you a credit of 2,000 euros per 5,000 next year if you are placing that money with an Irish company. And specifically, the company in question for today's webinar is a software company called Emex, which Simon's going to talk about. It's a 4-year scheme, so it requires you to have that money with Emex for 4 years, and of which Emex are going to look to pay you over that time frame for the use of your monies, and the rate of which is going to be capped at 20%. So in very simple language, what I want to talk to you about today is, if you are suffering tax at the top rate, i.e. earning more than 37,000 a year, and if you're able to offset 5,000 euros personally that you have, whether you're self-employed, a company owner, or PAYE, and you can leave that money invested with a company for 4 years, you will get 2,000 euros back next year from the Irish government, and look to get back 6,000 euros from Emex over that 4-year term. This is a really attractive scheme. There are, on average, about 50 to 100 companies that look to raise money in this format, and Simon will talk about where his company is and why you should consider investing in this company. As an independent broker, our role in Alpha Wealth is to select the best company in this space, and in my opinion, Emex is the best company. I'm not biased by that. I know Simon, which endorses why I would like people to consider Emex, because I'd like to think that it makes sense for me to be able to speak directly to Simon and having got a full steer on where EMEX are. And there is supporting information and obviously a prospectus relating to this. So I'd like to, I suppose, introduce Simon. Simon, I think I saw you come on the call.
Yeah, I'm here, Nick.
Very good. And I'll give you the floor for the next 5 minutes or so, Simon, if that's okay, just to maybe talk a little bit more about EMEX and really the opportunity for people who are considering looking at investing in space.
Yeah. No, that's great, Nick. Thanks for setting this up, and everyone, thanks for coming. I know you're probably busy during your lunchtime or some kind of period like that, whatever we call it nowadays. But EMEX, the reason we've gone for the EIS scheme, backing up Nick's comments there, is that we think it's a brilliant incentive by the Irish government to kind of encourage Irish people to invest in companies here that are creating jobs and new technologies. So it's a bit like the kind of big tax breaks we all see going to Apple and Google and Facebook in Dublin. You know, individual Irish citizens can get that by participating in the EIS schemes with companies like EMEX. A couple of highlights I'd make about us here is that ours is a fully regulated product. So BlackBee Investments, which some of you will know, have kind of gone through a process at EMEX where they've regulated all of our figures, they've checked all of our information. And of the 50 to 100 Nick mentions every year raising capital like this in Ireland, I'm going to say 4 or 5 would go through that regulatory process because it's quite onerous, but it sort of gives a kind of a seal of approval from the Central Bank of Ireland and the investment managers, BlackBee, as to, you know, our business and what we're trying to achieve over the next 4 years. The reason EMEX is it's come at a very interesting time for us. So what we essentially do is we're a software company. We've developed a software product over the last 10 years, so we're quite mature, and we have a very broad range of customers. Some brand names you guys will recognize, like Apple Green or IKEA, which are familiar brands in Ireland. But we also work with some of the biggest mining companies in the world who are also in Kazakhstan or Ukraine, or oil and gas companies in West Africa. So very much we sell our product to companies who are carrying out high-risk activities. In terms of potential risk for the environment or potential risk for their employees or their equipment. And companies have to give us money for our software because regulators and basically their own kind of corporate process ensures that they want to minimize accidents, minimize the cost of accidents. And it's a very serious occurrence if, for example, in an Apple Green, there's a major accident and people are injured in a forecourt. There's all sorts of insurance, PR, and operational risks for Apple Green, and they use software like ours to try and minimize that. And what's kind of been very interesting over the last few months is we've all seen COVID. It's kind of radically increased the amount of documentation. You know, very small Irish businesses and schools, like we're all going to school now and we're going to kind of offices and we're being forced to sign in, you know, give our phone number, confirm we're not sick, and kind of leave our data in case somebody needs to contact us in the future. And essentially for a very large company, EMEX has been doing that for large companies for years now, where that's normal on an oil field in West Africa, or totally normal in a kind of a copper mine in Kazakhstan. So what used to be only the prevail of very large companies is now the prevail of every company in Ireland and kind of every company in the world. And very much we're selling our product out to companies in the world, North America, Canada, England, France, Germany, the Middle East, over into Russia even. So we're very global in our outlook. And your capital enables us to spend a lot more money on sales and marketing, and it really lets us grow our company, you know, from a €2 million revenue this year kind of business up to maybe a 10 or 15, 20 million euro revenue business by the end of 2024, when we repay this investment back to you, plus the 20% coupon, as Nick has mentioned. So it's a brilliant opportunity for us to build our business and continue to do what we do, which is kind of grow our software company and grow all these clients. And again, I think it's a brilliant opportunity for you guys as investors, because you're getting this big tax break from the Irish government, which is really kind of giving an extra boost on this investment. From a kind of a risk point of view, EIS money into EMEX is the most protected money into the company. It's a bit like a loan into the company. It's like a mortgage on a house or a mortgage on a property. It's the first money that ever comes out of the business. So the EIS investors will be completely redeemed plus their coupon before the owners of the business, or the founders like myself and Richard, can do anything. So very much it's designed to be very beneficial. It's designed to get the capital to us to grow our business and increase jobs in Ireland, and designed to give you guys this incentive around your income tax to kind of get you, to make you really want to make that investment and encourage you to do it. And that lets, that lets you, the way I think about that from a kind of a wealth building point of view, is it lets somebody who's got income turn it into kind of permanent capital And once they've made an investment in an EAAS company like Amex, they can then choose to invest in another product like real estate or the stock market or Tesla or Apple, because it's been kind of turned into 5,000 euros of income has turned into 5,000 euros of gross capital, or 6,000 euros including the coupon. So that's a great way to build up a kind of a store of money for the future to make different investments after you've gone through this EAAS tax process. So I think it works for us all. And we have a website there called mx.com. There's lots of information on that around our product, around our customers. And really the theme I'd leave you with is that we're a mature, fast-growing company, and the sector we're in is very hot and popular at the moment, because it's enabling companies to be compliant with all these new regulations around COVID, and compliant with these regulations in every country in the world. So it's not just what we're seeing here in Ireland, it's what we're seeing out in America or in England and France and Germany, as I say. And these laws are kind of in place everywhere, and they're making businesses use systems like ours to kind of get this information digitized, and then digitize all of the safety information forevermore. So we're very positive about the future. We're delighted to be here on the go with Nick and yourselves, I suppose, telling our story. And we really hope as many of you get involved. We're available for questions. And if anybody wants to kind of a private email exchange on some specifics here, I've had some amazing conversations with clients of Nick's, and they've opened up opportunities actually for us to sell our products. So I'm finding the reaching out to this wide audience very, very satisfactory process. So no one be embarrassed to ask any question. And I suppose we hope to kind of bring as many of you on board and grow our business as big as we can and have a great success here.
That's great, Simon. Thank you very much for that. So just really to, I suppose, summarize, we're not on this call to do a kind of a hard sell. Really, the purpose of the call is to educate people about a tax opportunity. And again, this is a revenue scheme that's available to any Irish PAYE or self-employed individual. It's something that has been in place since 2011. Pascal Donoghue stood up in the Dáil at the last budget and breathed life into this scheme. And in my opinion, and I've been in financial services for many years, this is a really viable scheme for high rate taxpayers. The biggest problem I think a lot of us are going to face is the amount of tax that we pay. And you'll see it if you receive your pay slip every month, how much tax we pay. And this is a perfectly legitimate scheme. Our role Alpha Wealth in this is to educate individuals and provide them with the opportunities. And there are other companies in this space. The purpose of getting Simon on the call is that, in our view, we really like Emex. They have some really good advantages over others. They've been trading for several years. They have a regulation that many companies wouldn't have, which means that there's a layer of added protection. And again, Alpha Wealth, as a regulated entity, provide full documentation and recommendations as to why we've recommended Emex over any other. Specifically, the fees associated with this are normally in the region of 3 to 5% of your investment contribution. So for somebody who is in a position where they can put 5 or 10,000 euros in, you're looking at a fee of between 100 and 200 euros over 4 years, which is not a large fee in the scheme of even the relief alone. We have reduced that down to 2% for individuals on this webinar. We're looking to try and obviously promote this because we believe it makes sense for individuals. And I would like to think that any high rate taxpayer would consider this, and whether or not they're in a financial position to do something, they may look at it next year again. You could put 5,000 into Emex. You may put 5,000 into Emex again next year if you're happy with the company, or indeed a different company, or you may invest a larger amount and spread it between 2 or 3. There are options available, and our role in Alpha Wealth is just to give you some information and clarity around that. Emex is due to close at the end of September. It may possibly be extended by a couple of weeks. Simon and Emex are looking to raise this money to obviously promote the company and to grow their sales. I think they're a really good post-COVID company. Makes sense, in my opinion, for the type of software that they're providing to companies that they sell to, including the likes of Irish Life, and as Simon said, Apple Green and IKEA here in Ireland. And again, we can provide you as much information as is required. Just to finish off and to say thank you again for your time for this webinar. Alpha Wealth provide more advice to individuals, including mortgage advice independently, which we do not charge for, as well as some of the other areas that are listed on the screen there. And again, myself and David, and there are other members of the team, Rebecca Tracy, will also be available to anyone just by way of any further information or requests this channel. Please do feel free to look us up on any of the social media sites. We are currently running some ads on News Talk, which you may have heard or may hear over the course of the coming weeks, which is offering this free financial review either of a video or phone to all individuals. I'd like to thank you very much for your time. Just say that we will be sending out just a follow-up by email, just with a little bit of information around EMEX. And if anyone would like to have a chat with us around even claiming on the working from home relief that I mentioned earlier, or indeed any other aspect of what we do, we'd be happy to do so. Thank you very much again for your time. And as I said, there is another webinar on the 23rd, which Zurich will partake in if you're interested in joining that. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.